Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Should you install Microsoft Office on your Mac or just use Pages, Numbers, and Keynote? MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So a question I'm often asked and that I often see online is, do you need to install the Microsoft Office apps on your Mac? In particular, apps like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. The alternative, of course, is to use Apple's apps Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Pages and Word are both word processors. Numbers and Excel are both spreadsheet apps. And Keynote and PowerPoint are both presentation apps. But they all do look and work differently. So which ones should you use? You can get Microsoft's apps from the Mac App Store. They're all available to download for free, but you're going to need a subscription to use them. You can choose from a couple different subscription plans from Microsoft's site, and then in those apps you log in to be able to access your account and then unlock the app. There's also the option to do a one-time purchase. You can still do that from Microsoft, but it's going to cost more, and of course that's not going to include major updates. So at some point in the future you may find that you need to buy a new version to replace the aging one that you have. Now the main reason to use Microsoft Office apps is if you're used to them. Say you've come from the Windows world, you're now on the Mac, and you have years of experience and knowledge for using Microsoft Word and Excel, and you don't want to stop using them now and use something new. Well, you can simply use the Mac versions of those and continue on doing things the way that you've always done. The Mac versions do look a little bit different. They're a little more tuned to the Mac interface, but you're going to find it a pretty easy transition to go from the Windows version of Word to the Mac version of Word. Another reason you may want to use Microsoft's apps is that they are, without a doubt, the most powerful. I love the Apple apps and I use the Apple apps myself, but there is no doubt that Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel are the most powerful word processor and spreadsheet app on the market. They've been around for a long time and they have tons of features packed into them. Most people, of course, don't need all of these features, and some of them are really obscure and have very specialized uses. But there's definitely more features packed into Word and Excel than Pages and Numbers. Another reason to stick with Microsoft Office apps is for compatibility. If you work with people or collaborate with people that are also using Microsoft Office apps, it's much easier to pass the same documents back and forth, not converting them all the time back and forth to other formats. If that's even just going to save you a little bit of time and frustration, it's probably worth the entire price of using the Microsoft Office apps. And also another type of compatibility is document compatibility. If say you've come from the Windows world and you have years and years worth of Microsoft Word doc files and Excel XLS files, well then having Microsoft Office around to be able to open those old files is really useful. Of course you can open them in Pages and Numbers as well, but there may be compatibility issues. It could be nice to have the official Microsoft Office apps there to be able to access all your files without any problems. Now how about the Apple apps, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote? Well, the main advantage to those, without a doubt, is that they're free. If you've got a Mac, you can install Pages, Numbers, and Keynote on your Mac. Just get them from the App Store if you don't already have them on your Mac, and it doesn't cost you anything. In fact, even if you have Microsoft Office, you should probably have those apps installed anyway. They could be useful for some tasks when you don't need all the power that's in the Office apps. Now also, I believe that the Mac apps are easier to use. For instance, take a look at Pages here. This is a blank document in Pages. You've just created a document. You're ready to start writing. You can see some buttons here at the top. You can see controls for things like font and styling here on the right. Now look at Microsoft Word. It definitely looks more complex. Maybe only marginally so though. Instead of having things on the right, everything's here at the top. And this is just a portion of the controls. You have to switch between these different ribbons here at the top to actually access everything. It's really not that different from having the right sidebar there, but I think if you really wanted to compare them, you would have to come to the conclusion that Word's more complex, which makes sense since it's more powerful. The same thing with Excel and Numbers here. Here's Excel and you can see all the different ribbons here at the top. And here's Numbers. You still have a lot of that complexity here in the right sidebar if you even want to have that visible. But I think everything looks a lot cleaner and it's a little bit easier to understand as long as you're not already deeply entrenched in Excel. Of course it's going to be hard to transition from Excel to Numbers, But if you haven't really used Excel, I think starting in Numbers is going to be easier than starting in Excel. Also keep in mind that with Pages, Numbers, and Keynote there are also free versions for the iPhone and iPad. So if you have multiple Apple devices and you learn to use Pages, say on the Mac, you can use some of those skills to actually use Pages on your iPhone or your iPad as well. And there are no compatibility issues. Plus, of course, the Apple apps work really well in the Apple ecosystem. For instance, if you save a Pages document to iCloud, you can go to the Share menu here and easily collaborate with other Mac users using Pages. It just kind of works seamlessly. There's really not too much to learn. You're just both working on the same document. Now that's also true of Microsoft Office apps. You can collaborate as long as you save to Microsoft OneDrive. If all of your coworkers or collaborators are using Microsoft Office, then it may be better to stick with Microsoft Office. But if they're not, if in fact they're all using Macs, then it may be better to collaborate with them using Apple's apps. Another thing about Pages, Numbers, and Keynote is you can still work with Microsoft Office documents. So this comes in really handy if you don't necessarily need to work with those documents, but you do need to view them. So for instance, here in Pages I could open up a Microsoft Word file, no problem. And it will simply convert it and it will give me warnings if there's anything that's not compatible. But if my goal here was just to read the document, like say someone in a group I'm in insists on distributing basic information in Microsoft Word docs, you could still open it up in Pages to read it. And if you ever want to give somebody a document to work on and you're in Pages and they're using Microsoft Word, you can always go to Export and then export as Word and give them a Word document. So now some final advice. First, you can use both. If you pay to have Microsoft Office, there's no reason you shouldn't have Pages, Numbers, and Keynote also on your Mac. In fact, I did this for years when I had to work in Microsoft Word for writing computer books. That's what my publisher used. But I did everything else in Pages. Matter of fact, this is a good strategy if you slowly want to wean yourself off of using Microsoft Office apps. You can use Pages for some things, Word for things that you need to use Word for, and then as you get more experience with Pages you may find at some point you decide to ditch the Office apps. In the end, the decision's got to be yours and there's no right or wrong answer, and you certainly don't have to stick with the same answer. You could subscribe to Microsoft Office for a year, see how it goes, and decide to move completely to Apple apps next year. You could just use Apple apps for now, and if you find out you can't get by working with your colleagues with the Apple apps, you can then get Microsoft Office and start using that. But I do hope you found this information useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.